Resume.
Oh,
It just said recording. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. So welcome to Mike's Movie Podcast featuring Evan with special guest Adam, where we are discussing a movie that is 155 minutes in length. It is part of the Criterion Collection. If you are a fan of Columbo, you may also recognize a main character in this movie. And of course, I don't think I could spell it out any more clearly what movie I'm talking about. It is A Woman Under the Influence.
Yeah, so we continue the theme of eating our vegetables on Mike's Movie Podcast. And I gotta say, like, I have a lot of things to say about this movie, more about the experience as usual, because I don't really know anything about movies. But I am getting a little bit worn out by all the sort of high quality, high class education.
You're the one who proposed this one, per your brother.
No, we need to talk about why that is. But I would just like to say we could circle back. But I just watched a really shitty comedy sketch show that was making fun of that whole circle back thing. Anyway, I vote that we go back to something that's either really gross and fucked up or really mindless and goofy, classic Penis Boy style. That's just my vote. Quick shout out. Nick Johnson's birthday coming up. He's been talking about wanting us to review this specific film for months. And we had to go through a lot of back channels to get to the boss and to get his permission to do it. We finally did. We got the okay. I will say to Nick, it is very much, you should consider it a gift.
Yeah,
man.
The last time.
Because this was work. This is hard work to do this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll stop.
No, I'm yeah. Well, continue your thought, and then I'll jump in because I have my 2 cents.
Well, that's my whole general theme for the podcast, is that this is hard work.
We should also acknowledge that this is recorded with less than 2 hours before the Bucks game, so that this, as I just observed before we started recording, will probably be the only Mike's Movie Podcast episode I'm on with a podcast is shorter than the movie, which is not how I like to do it, but sometimes it's my own fault. I had to delay to make sure I had time to watch the movie. So we're going to make it happen. We're going to talk more.
That's all right. Yeah, I hear you. I do record the Bucks games because I often am not able to sit through them live anyway these days. But so if you want to stay on with me for a little while, I will.
A little private session.
Little follow-up, but whatever, yes.
I want to give my thoughts on the movie, and that I will say, out of all of the movies that we've watched for this podcast, and out of all of the movies that I've watched, period, this one might be the most difficult one that to get through.
Woo! We did it!
It was a total grind to get through the movie, and I'll say, just to compare it to Ordinary People, Ordinary People, I think had some smooth, regular drama moments that were kind of uplifting. Some of the scenes with the therapist where you're this guy, he's getting it, he's developing as a person. You're kind of like that, and I just thought this movie from start to finish was just it was really abrasive. And
this is definitely the kind of movie that I would have never.
Pardon me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
definitely the kind of movie that I would have never proposed myself, because this is the kind of movie that you guys think all 70s movies are like. And
exactly.
They're not all like, but this is iconically the archetype of unpleasant downer 70s movie.
Yeah, it's got that hazy, foggy glow the whole time. There is literally no, it doesn't develop in a way that's in any way exciting or leads you to anticipate anything. It's just not that kind of movie. And I get why it's of value. Again, I get why it's good vegetables. And part of me appreciates, now having watched it, I see the place that it has. But yes, I knew it was going to be work. You don't know this, Adam, but Mike and I had a text session last night around midnight my time, and neither one of us had yet watched the movie. So, like, I will confess that I finished it literally 2 hours ago. Yeah, I was squirmy. I was very squirmy, but that's normal. That's normal. I also want to just say, like, I have very few like observations. I mean, I guess I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like, I couldn't stop thinking about and now I'm drawing a blank on her name, Gina Rowlands in the movie Polly, and I couldn't stop thinking about Peter Falk in the movie The Princess Bride, which I just want to say while this is recording is my least favorite movie of all time. I absolutely hate The Princess Bride. Happy to go into detail, but don't need to for this podcast. We can revisit that. So that was just what was on my mind. Also, I leave it to my brother to pick a movie as something very important to him, where literally half the dialogue is screamed, just constant shouting for a lot of the times no reason, right? Like it's just this like intense.
He loves bad dad movies. I don't know why he loves bad dad movies, but this is a big time heavy hitter bad dad situation.
Right. Well, and I know it's like it's supposed to be the woman under the influence, right? But like, I thought some parts of this bore some resemblance to scenes in the movie The Other Sister, because like it's sort of like a retarded couple and they're both like not really able to communicate or function properly. But I don't think it was the intention. I think it's just the way Peter Falk looks and acts on camera. I also don't understand what's going on with him insisting on having all these people around all the time. Like, why would you just bring all these people to your house anyway?
Yeah, well, let's start with that, because there were several scenes in the movie where I just wasn't fully tracking the motivation and why it was happening. So there is the scene, like the first half hour of the movie, you know, Peter Falk, he had date night planned, couldn't make it because he called him to work. And then I can't remember the name of the character, but you know, like she gets brought home by another guy, and then later that morning, Peter Falk comes in with like his crew of coworkers, and then they all have like a spaghetti lunch. And I maybe I missed like why like what the decision there was as to why he was like, "Hey fellas, just come on over." So that am I missing something, or was that just like never really explained?
In my opinion, and it is for sure not like explicitly made clear in the movie, so you kind of have to speculate. And if I were going to speculate, in both situations, both that time and later when she's coming home from the hospital and he has way too many people over, are both situations that I think he anticipates being awkward and combative. He thinks that if you have a bunch of people, then like it's not going to be just a fight, because people will like uphold social graces in a social setting. So if he forces it to be a social setting, he deflects the like fight that he knows is inevitable because of the situation. That's my theory.
Okay.
No one can really know unless we like have some behind the scenes stuff, but that's my interpretation.
Well, let's keep diving in on that point, because in that scene, there was one of the coworkers who was like doing some sort of like opera singing, and then the wife, I can't remember what the name of that character was, but she like kind of like starts doing some sort of performative thing, and Peter Falk's like, "Stop it! What are you doing?" and kind of yelling.
He doesn't. He yells the entire movie, and I had to shut the volume down. I almost had to shut this movie off like twice. And again, like not because it's obviously good, right? Like it's vegetables. It's not a bad movie. That's not the right way to talk about it. It's just like, good God.
Yeah.
What it felt to me like is, you know, when you're at someone's house, like when you're a kid or even now, and like there's something going on with whoever house you're at where like there's some tension, and then they start having a fight and it's like unrelated to you, and you're kind of just like, you kind of just want to be like, you know what, like you guys just work this out, I'll leave. But the movie is like, no, you don't get to leave. You can just sit there and like not leave when you're like, oh, you know, you guys need to work it out. I'll just leave you to do that. And the movie's like, no, you will sit here and watch us not work it out forever.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, but that was it though. I think on that, for that dinner scene though, and also on your point there, Adam, I just like, you know, kind of interpreting the motivation there. is that like, you know, Peter Falk trying to diffuse an uncomfortable interaction and then kind of using it as an opportunity to be like, no, it's actually your fault. This is your fault, and just like kind of flip everything around on her. So
Do you think like this movie in the time, I don't remember what year it is, whatever, early 70s, mid 70s. Do you think this would be considered like woke or feminist in that
No,
era?
and I will tell you, in another Mike's Movie Podcast movie, the Charlie Kaufman Netflix one, I already forgot the title.
oh, I'm thinking of ending things.
You know, anyways.
I'm thinking of ending things. In the car, they're talking about this movie, and the girl starts to recite
That's
Pauline
right.
Kael's view, criticizing it as making her out as this like negative stereotype of women. And then his reaction is like, well, I liked it.
Well, that's interesting because it seems to me that like that the movie is trying to undermine that stereotype.
Oh, absolutely. Peter Falk is the fucked up guy in the movie,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
And like the thing is, I thought it was going to be like an alcoholic addiction movie because of the title, but she only drinks once at the start. It's
Right.
totally under the influence of Peter Falk. He is what she's under the influence.
And just like the contemporary female role in that society. That's why I asked. Like, I don't know, like your 70s, it's like it's still, I mean, it's post whatever sexual revolution, but not by much. And I just don't know. Like I wasn't around back then. It seems to me like this is probably ranked a very important film because of its strengths in terms of like getting underneath that set of stereotypes and like challenging the whole, you know, the household roles and shit like that, and talking about how hard it is for women, whatever. Not being very articulate right now.
Yeah.
I'm worn out by what was a very what's with all the fucking screaming? Why did they have to put that in the movie?
That's what it's all about. The fireworks, that's the pizzazz, that's the sizzle on the steak of your bad dad fighting.
Is
family
that
fighting.
something? Is that something people used to do? I mean, what is Peter Falk's character? I still don't get it. Like, I'm always torn between like, is this some sort of, is this how dudes acted in the 70s, or is he just being like over animated, or what? Is he just? But we're just supposed to see that he's crazy too. What? It's the latter.
I think it's the last one. And one thing I will say is obviously, in terms of me enjoying the movie, Gina Rowlands felt like her performance is like at like a Jim Carrey level. Like her like zany hijinks is what I'm entertained by. And then the movie, the one way I was thinking about the movie that was funny to me is like because her performance is so like, you know, sketch comedy, Mad TV and Living Color, Jim Carrey, like over the top. But then everyone is like, what's your problem? I like to think of it as if a sketch comedy character escaped into reality and like had to deal with real people. And everyone was like, stop it, that's annoying. But I was like, no, she's great. But also the flip side of that, which I think is also kind of what Pauline Kael is talking about in the review that they quote in I'm Thinking of Ending Things, is like, in my life experience, Gina Rowlands is not really behaving in a way that is at all representative of any like DSM pathology. You know what I mean? Like I really like what she's doing because it's so crazy and that's the most entertaining part. But like in terms of the movie being about reality, it doesn't, I am unaware of a human being having a mental condition that makes her act like that. It was kind of like out. So like the movie overall is super like naturalistic and like gritty and like what the real world is like, except her craziness is like a weird zany sketch comedy craziness that I have never encountered in my real life. And I think that is something that some people were like, you know, like I get trying to have a movie about like men oppressing people that are kind of quirky, but like what is this lady's fucking deal? Like no one is like this. But that's why I like it. That's why it's the best part, because it's the only part that's like beyond reality, is like whatever weird her like shit that she keeps doing.
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking she had some sort of mild schizophrenia.
But like I have known people with schizophrenia. I've watched documentaries about people with schizophrenia. She's way too lucid. If it's mild, it's so mild that like half of our friends have that level of schizophrenia. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I can see your point. It's hard because like I don't know, I almost like don't, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why. I think just because it was like I waited too long to watch it, and it was a pain in the ass to sit through. I don't like feel like, I'll be honest, like I don't feel compelled to take a strong stance on anything with this movie. You know what I mean? Like I have in the past. Like typically I want to say like, oh, I think it's this. And for this one, I'm just sort of like, okay. You know, it's like that sounds right. That sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still like perplexed by like sort of the bonehead, like to me seemingly non-realistic but familiar in in the vein of these 70s movies, like just scenes that don't seem to make sense. Like, well, I don't understand what was going on. Like the construction crew in the first scene where he's getting the call or whatever, where are they? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, so I was having a hard time pinning down what exactly his job was as well, because they start off and they're in a river, and then he can't come home because there's a pipe that burst, and then later in the movie they're like at like a quarry or something. They're like doing outdoor stuff. I mean, it seems like his job is like vague manual labor for the city.
I think he's an excavator. And I think it's deliberately not clear, but if I want to go an extra mile that the movie isn't showing me, I would say excavator, because if you have a major water break, you need excavators to stop it. And that's definitely that thing they're driving at the quarry when he like almost kills that guy or whatever is totally some kind of excavation. But like whether he works for the city or whether he has his own, he must work for the city because they made him come in for the water main break.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of stuff in the movie where it's like, did I just not catch it, or was it kind of just a 70s movie thing for the way that like the way that the editing happened in the 70s is not clear. The guy that like fell down the hill and hurt himself, I did not like see how exactly that happened.
They absolutely don't show it. You are right that it is not shown. Me jumping beyond what the movie is showing me, because he was shown going down that rope and Peter Falk was yelling at him while he did it. I assume Peter Falk did something with the rope or threw something at him, because it's obviously Peter Falk was mad at him and did something, and he was going down a rope. So he either like shook the rope, or they probably like couldn't afford to do a stunt for him actually falling. So they were like, we'll just cut. People will get it. Because like it doesn't matter how he did it. In the like arc of what's going on in the movie, it's irrelevant. And they didn't want to deal with like a stunt for a guy falling that far. So they were just like, we'll just make everybody look sad, and then he's at the bottom.
You know, I wonder how this movie was. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if we could actually sit and watch the movie together. You ever think about that? I think I would have gotten a lot more from it.
I watched it with Izzy, and she knew it was long, and she kind of like was like, I don't know if I'm going to stick around for this. It's not really like hooking me, but then she kind of did get hooked, and she stayed all the way. She finally gave up. Was like, I'm going to bed. When like she comes back from the hospital and they kick everybody out, and then they're still just fighting. She was like, how much is left in this? And I was like a half an hour. And she's like, what the heck?
You know, it's funny, like it seemed very long. We keep talking about how long it was, but it's probably like right around the median for movies that we've done on this podcast, right? I mean, like, I guess I'm thinking about
2.5 hours.
Well, I'm thinking more about the stuff. I guess you weren't on those where we did this.
Oh yeah.
Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago and Bridge on the River Kwai, and which, by the way, those movies were like, Alien and Terminator 2 rolled into one compared to watching this thing. It's like just in terms of like general stimulation. And
Yeah. Well, so other scenes to talk about too, which again I might just another scene that just seemed it did almost seem like like a setup. So like kind of like a Portlandia, or even like a Portlandia, or even Tim and Eric, or just like kind of just general like sketch comedy setup. The scene that I'm talking about is when like the neighbor walks by and she's like, "Hey, can you watch my kids for a while?" And then
Yeah.
that like turns into a thing, and I'm just like,
That was my favorite scene.
yeah. But that one is like, it almost has like a comedic setup to it, in the sense of like, the neighbor just like, "You watch my kids," like that's the setup for like chaos and comedy, which of course
I thought the exact same thing several times, where it felt like the decisions were the decisions that like an improv group would do, only they weren't for comedy. Like the other one that's felt most like a sketch setup to me is when he's finally gone to sleep after he came back and they got the guys out of there, and then the mom comes with the kids, and because she just wants to get back to sleep, but then like they're like, "Okay, we'll leave," but then he makes everybody get into bed with him. You know what I'm talking
Exactly.
about?
That's
That
70s shit. That is so depressing, and like it just it stirs some shit up for me. I mean, and in a way I like it. It's like, wow, it's really digging into that wound of just kind of like depressing family shit. The other scene that's kind of like that for me, which is funny because I usually associate these scenes with like the mom or woman, but the beach scene, like right after she goes to the hospital, and when they're getting ready to go to the beach, and the dad just kind of can't get the kids to do the right thing. And like one of the things that he says is, "Nobody gets pneumonia when I'm the father." He says, he shouts it, of course. "No one gets pneumonia when I'm the father." And then he takes the kids to the beach, and he doesn't, it's not clear what he's trying to get them to do, but they don't want to do it. He's insisting that everybody's like going to have a good time. And so he just forcefully picks them up and like drags them to some unknown location on the beach.
exactly like at the end when he makes them sit at the dinner, and then he gets mad and he's like, "Just have normal conversation." He's trying to like force these like Norman Rockwell situations that he wants to have happen, but
Right.
because he's like a belligerent asshole, they always get fucked up. Because at the beach, he's like, "We're going to the beach," and then like as soon as that guy he flips the switch because his coworker, I don't remember what he says, but the coworker says something like, "Well, man, it's crazy to just go to the beach after you almost killed that guy." And then he's like, "Okay, we're going home. We're going back to the truck."
Right. And why is that guy wearing a bathrobe to the beach?
Because that's all. Because it was a spur of the moment. We're going to the beach. We're gonna have a good time. And that guy came to his house. All he had to do that guy to go to the beach.
It's probably a pretty cold day at the beach too, because they're like, ugh. Oof.
But yeah, I mean, again, I will say this is a rare Mike's Movie Podcast experience where we watched a highly regarded 70s movie.
Right.
And I agree with you guys that like I appreciate it. I think everybody involved did an excellent job making a movie I didn't want to watch, never want to watch again. Because I've seen other Cassavetes movies and I kind of know he's not for me, and I appreciate his influence on later movies. Like, what are those fucking guys? Like the Uncut Gems guys. Those guys have a lot of Cassavetes stuff going on, but they add enough other stuff where like I have fun with it. But like all the like big Cassavetes movies, which are the only ones I've seen from like working at the New Beverly or like dabbling in Criterion classic bullshit, they're all great. He had a very specific thing, which is like realistic people having a bad time. That like I used to only watch when I was a teenager. All I watched were depressing movies where people have a bad time. But this kind of like really naturalistic, normal having a bad time, I'm just like, I literally feel like what I said before, where it's like seeing someone have a fight and you kind of want to be like, "Oh, well, I mean, I'm not involved. I don't need to be here for this." But it's a movie of that. And every time I watch it, I'm like, "Oh, I mean, woof, I don't really need to be here for this. See you guys later. Call me next weekend."
So as somebody who's more familiar with the Cassavetes panel, help me understand, what are we supposed to take from the ending?
I mean, okay, and that is some classic 70s shit, because what a classic 70s ending is, even if it was a fun, happy movie, like everybody dies or like something really
Right.
bleak or brutal happens. But in this movie, it's doing that. But the most brutal thing that can happen is this family just continues to live together.
Yeah.
That is my takeaway. Because you
Yeah.
keep thinking, I kept thinking, like, is she going to kill him? Is he going to kill her? What's going to happen? And it's like, nope, they're just going to keep doing this forever. And that's the darkest ending of all.
Mm.
Yeah, because there was what preceded that was Mabel saying, "Like, do you still love me?" And Peter Falk's like, "Well,
It's up.
let's make our bed." And then they get to the then they do it. And of course, I also too. What's also a little bit on the depresso 70s side is how their bedroom is actually the dining room.
Yeah, that is insane. I didn't see that. You could have figured that out from other scenes in the movie, but I didn't figure it out until they did that. And I was like, oh man.
I
And
know
also, the bathroom has the private sign on it. What the fuck is up with that? Izzy was like, do they live in a halfway house? Why does the bathroom say private?
Well, they got kids, a lot of people running around the house, getting in trouble. And
Kids that don't know that that's the bathroom. Kids that like read a sign that says private.
yeah.
So I want to know. I want to know. This is speculative. This is outside the text of the movie. In your guys' opinion, because I don't know what I think about this. Do you think that Mabel was like she is in the movie when her and Peter Falk started their relationship, or do you think this is like a development later in their life?
I think it's supposed to be treated as a development because she is a victim of this imposed housewife model.
But separate from that, I just mean not her like anger and resentment at him, but her like zany quirkiness and like the stuff that like, that stuff. Like, was she always like that? Because I kind of felt like maybe that makes the plot of the movie slightly less extreme if she started doing that out of nowhere. But then in the very beginning, when he's dreading having to call her and he's talking to the coworkers about it, he has that whole thing where he's like, she's different, I don't want to explain it.
He's not
and that's
crazy.
so she's always been like that. But then if she's always been like that, why would they get this far into a relationship without bigger problems earlier? They're 3 kids deep. And like then he's got problems with her. Like,
well, you answered that already with your interpretation of the ending, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, they're not going to stop. Like, people in these and I think that makes me like the movie a lot more. By the way, the idea that just like, yeah, all these, this terrible dramatic stuff can happen, and this just extreme dysfunction, and by and large, people don't exit those dynamics. I think that's still true now, right? Like, I mean, I don't know any couples who act like that, but I know a lot of couples who the level of delusion required to maintain what they're doing is incredible. And I think that is a very realistic thing.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, and I know what you're talking about. I just feel like it's a repetitive thing in the movie where Peter Falk compulsively wants things to be normal, and Gina Rowlands is always just like a freewheeling manic pixie dream girl spinning around doing funny voices and shit, and he hates it. Every time she does it, he hates it, and it's
but he's like that.
But then when she finally stops doing it and comes back and is just quiet and meek, he has that thing where he's like, will you just be yourself? Can you please just do your stuff? Do your thing.
So now that I'm thinking about it, I think I want to hear what Mike thinks too. But I think that they both have always been like that. Like, they met and they like each other because they're both crazy, neurotic, zany people. Look at him. He's more like tweaked out than she is. That's why I thought, like, this is other sister type stuff.
That's the thing. She is doing fun, crazy stuff. Like, if I was at a party and Mabel was there, I'd be like, this lady's cool. Peter Falk wouldn't even be at the party. Peter Falk would be like at home drinking by himself, like mad at something. Like, that's what doesn't compute for me. Like, maybe he used to be a more fun-loving, zany guy. The zaniest thing about him is that ridiculous hat he wears.
He's explosive and violent, and she likes that.
Sure.
And she is unpredictable and chaotic, and he's drawn to that. That's the sick dynamic. Like, you know, he wants to have this crazy mess to constantly have to chase around and work on, and she wants to be, you know, like treated as like either treated in the violent way that he sometimes treats her in the movie, or like just absolutely adored and like, you know. And I think that's a common. There's some thread of that in a lot of toxic relationships. You know what I mean?
I mean, that interpretation is basically Phantom Thread. That's the Phantom Thread version.
Okay, and then this is an opportunity for me to do my Phantom Thread impression, which is I'm trying to design, and it's so the toast is distracting me.
Queen.
That's actually for full disclosure, that's me doing an impression of Nick, doing an impression of Daniel Day-Lewis. And
Mike, have you seen Phantom Thread? Have you seen
Haven't we talked about it on the podcast?
I love that movie.
Yeah, I
thought we did a podcast about it.
We did a podcast on Phantom Thread.
I'm pretty sure we did.
No, we didn't.
Oh, are we getting to that point of like we're forgetting about the podcasts that we've done?
Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure. Neither of you remember doing a podcast about it?
I'm gonna go ahead and take a look. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can find.
If we didn't do a podcast about it, it came up on a different podcast before. I remember talking about our interpretation, whether the ending was good, supposed to be good or negative.
Oh, the Major Pain podcast has 6,000 views.
Yeah, I know that we. I'm looking at what the files that I had for it, and I don't see Phantom Thread on there.
But I have a vivid memory of being like, do you guys think in the movie world we're supposed to feel good about the ending, or is that supposed to be like a?
I do remember talking about it, but I think it was.
So it may have been in an unrelated podcast, but I remember
maybe it was in like the Mother podcast or something where it came up. We'll have to
back to the golden era.
We'll have to listen to all of our podcasts to
yeah, and then we should do a podcast on the old podcasts.
Yeah, that's a
self-analysis.
I want
to idea.
I do want to discuss. I mean, with just kind of dissect the relationship a little bit more with Peter Falk at the very end. So at the very end, you know, he like slaps her twice in the movie, and at the very end, he's really kind of get a crescendo of rage. But then like afterwards, I think they're in the bathroom. Then he like kind of gives her like an affectionate like wink. After she says like, "Do you love me?" and he doesn't give an answer. But no, I think it's like when they're like getting their bedroom set up, and he just kind of looks at her and kind of gives her like a "here's looking at you, kid" type wink. So
I love you to death, you crazy kid. I wish I didn't have to slap you, but you like it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get canceled. It's not funny, folks, but it is.
I mean, you're not going to get canceled because that really basically is what the movie. That's an accurate reflection of the subtext of the movie, which is an award-winning Criterion Collection movie, so it's uncancelable.
And that's why, though. But that's why, because like that was an early time. That's what I was saying at the start of the podcast. Like that was probably a pretty early year to be making such a strong statement about that. And I'm sure it was thought of as like, okay, well, these are mainstream, like big time Hollywood actors doing something that's, you know, artistically trying to, you know, cut this bullshit, you know, legitimizing of whatever, you know, spousal violence. And it's not just that, but you know, that and other symptoms of a toxic, you know, marriage dynamic.
Another thing I was curious to hear your guys' thoughts on is the pivotal scene where the guy drops the kids off and they have the costume party and their daughter's running around naked and he hits her the first time. In your guys' opinion, did she do anything wrong there? Was there anything you found objectionable in her hosting of that children's party?
that goes on the list of things I don't fully understand. I might have missed.
Whether you understand it or not, like when you watch that scene where you're like, oh man, she's fucking up here. I only kept thinking Peter Falk's gonna be mad about this. To me, that looks like a cool, fun party for the kids, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
Adam, if you're asking if she deserved it or not, there's not anything that's wrong enough to deserve.
No, that separate from, I'm not saying whether, like, in terms of like that guy being like, I don't know about leaving my kids with you,
Right.
because that he didn't hit, but just like the idea that like whatever she's doing is inappropriate for kids. I'm like, I mean, it's a little out there, but like that looks like the kids are having a great time. Let the kids have fun.
Yeah, no, I think he was more disturbed by just the way she was talking to him. Like she just kind of like some of the stuff she says and her responding to social cues is not quite right. And he was picking up on that. Like she's
But what did she say? She's just like, you want to dance? They're having a party.
Right. And he's all, you're supposed to see
that like people interpret her being like singing and dancing as like sexual, where like there's that scene where Peter Falk's like, he doesn't know you don't mean it. Because she's just is like a freewheeling manic pixie dream girl who really just does want to dance to the fucking Black Swan opera.
Yeah.
And that guy's like, hey, lady, I'm just here to drop my kids off. And I'm like, sure, maybe you're not going to dance with her, but like that lady is just having a cool, fun party for the kids.
I thought, like, I think when we talk about like parties that maybe would be a little bit over the top, I think, of course, we have to talk about Mrs. Doubtfire. That is a party where it's like, hold on a moment. That's a bit much. But that just seemed like kind of just typical playing with the kids. That was like actually now that I'm talking about it, it's like it's almost like it's like Swiss Army Man, like that type of.
I didn't see that one, but you did make me remember one of my favorite scenes in Mrs. Doubtfire, which is when the coach is eating the soccer ball cake that Sally Fields brings home, and I always would think, wow, that looks like a really good birthday cake to have. I would be pissed off too. Anyway.
I want to hear more, Mike. What do you think is like Swiss Army Man?
Well, like Swiss Army Man's kind of like something like the whimsical fantasy.
Oh yeah. So like what she's doing is fostering a Swiss Army Man fantasy life for the kids. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of what we
are. I'm like, that's cool. That seems like a more fun party than a normal party for kids.
Is Swiss Army Man the one with Harry Potter?
Correct.
That's right. See, I don't want to see any movies with him. That's a lost cause.
You would like it.
I'm not really being serious, but my opinion about Daniel Radcliffe is that
I don't like him either.
I don't not like him. I just think he's one of those people who is you did one thing and that's the thing. You are branded with it. You can't seriously ask people to take you out of that suit. For some reason,
I will always commend people like that who go out of their way to do what most of them do and try and get weird movies made because they're in them. Like fucking Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson in everything Robert Pattinson is in that isn't a fucking Christopher Nolan movie or whatever. Like he does it best. Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson both do it, and you could say the same thing about them. Like, you guys were in the vampire movies. Get the fuck out of here.
True, but I also don't think that Daniel Radcliffe is anywhere near as talented as those two.
Absolutely not. He sucks. I actually don't like him at all. But Swiss Army Man is an enjoyable movie, and it totally wouldn't exist if he didn't say, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Yeah,
he's bad at doing it. He's not as good as Robert Pattinson or Kristen Stewart, but at least he's trying to do something.
Yeah, I agree with that, and yeah. I mean, but what you hope happens that you get your money, do your famous stuff, and then like you try to do interesting stuff, and whether or not, I mean, yeah, I applaud the effort.
Yeah, like the alternative is the fucking other guy from the vampire movies.
Taylor Lautner.
Yeah, like what the fuck? What weird indie movie you can bankroll Taylor Lautner? Fucking bullshit. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he did have a role in Grown Ups too,
which was a fine film, but that movie was going to be just as good if he was in it or not. And I think he's in a new Sandler movie. I was just reading. I think he's in whatever the next forthcoming Sandler movie is, which I'll be thrilled to see. But my point is, he's an example of what it looks like to not do what Harry Potter is trying to copy, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart doing, which is like, oh, I'm just a big dumb guy. I'll do some dumb movies. I'm an idiot.
Fair enough. What else do we want to cover with this?
This is, sorry, Nick. That's all I had to say. Shortest episode ever. How long are we at? What time are we at? Are we at 40
We're
minutes?
not even at an hour. Okay, so like suffice it to say, again, like we've been on this kick of eating our vegetables and watching good, clean, wholesome, important cinema. And we've done what? So this is like number 3 or 4 in that chain. We did Breakfast at Tiffany's. We did Ordinary People.
Wait, hold on a second. I wouldn't like lump Breakfast at Tiffany's necessarily in the vegetable category, because
Really? I think it's
the reason being is that like
it's not a good enough movie to be vegetables.
yeah, and like Ordinary People and A Woman Under the Influence, like going into them, like that they're going to be like serious dramas.
Well,
Uncomfortable. Like Breakfast at Tiffany's. I mean, you may like find it uncomfortable to watch, but I think it's like for different reasons. I think that like Breakfast at Tiffany is more like like a chocolate sundae with curdled ice cream. That's unpleasant for that reason, not because it's like vegetables.
So let me again say that like there's a part of me that didn't hate any of these movies, and they weren't.
It's definitely my least favorite. Would you agree to that?
Wait, Breakfast at Tiffany's is your least favorite?
Of these 3.
Adam said that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say that. Like it depends. It depends on the criteria. Like I'm not looking forward to the cheeseburger rating for this one. I will do it though, because I think quantification is all we have. If we lose that, the world is chaos, right? Because everything is math. But
yeah, and if you their numbers are everywhere.
I was gonna try and make the same joke Mike did, but Mike did it better and quicker.
There's just numbers
We
everywhere.
can do that movie. Does Evan, do you know what movie Mike and I are talking about?
No.
We should do that then. He's probably never seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely haven't seen it. I don't watch shit, guys. It's the first movie I've watched since whatever. That's not true. What did I watch? I watched The Lord of the Rings, the whole trilogy.
Wow.
And get this. The friend who I was watching it with brought DVDs over.
Not Blu-ray, DVD.
Blu-ray. And the DVDs were the full screen version.
Wow.
So we watched the full screen DVD version of all 3. You talking about long movies. Every single one of those fucking 3 hours long. And not all in one sitting, obviously.
Can I tell you something? When we for Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001.
Yeah.
When we at Walden, we had a school field trip to see Fellowship of the Ring, and I remembered as customary, about halfway through the movie, I had to use the restroom, and I came back, and I actually accidentally went into the wrong theater, and the theater that I went to was like totally empty. And I think for a moment I was worried that everybody was raptured and I ended up being left behind before I then realized I was just in the wrong theater.
Well,
do you remember what movie was playing in the theater you walked in instead?
No. So I think that was like, because Lord of the Rings was, so we would have seen it. It would have been like a special 11 a.m. field trip showing.
Like there was just nothing playing in the other theater.
Yeah, nothing. It was on multiple screens, so I just went into it like another one of the theaters that normally would have been playing the Fellowship of the Ring.
I don't remember anything about going on those trips, but I'll never forget the song that we wrote for the next year when we went on a field trip to see the 2 towers, and instead of writing a paper, we're given permission to write a song about Lord of the Rings. And we did it in the style of, I'd say, like late 80s Ozzy, early Zakk Wylde era. And
yeah, well, yeah, it's a good song. I can tell you, I had nothing to do with any of the.
Oh, that's right. That was really my baby.
Yeah.
Our good friend Matt Marty.
Are you gonna sing it?
Huh?
Can we hear it?
Oh, I don't sing. I don't have it handy. And that's, you know what, I don't want to, I know this is my brother's birthday podcast. The last thing he would want recorded on it is anything with me playing guitar. So, but maybe on another one, we'll bring it out, you know?
What do you think? What else do you think we should talk about for his birthday? What's some other birthday topics you would want to hear us talk about?
Jesus. Well, you know, I mean, I do believe he's probably our biggest fan. So we appreciate that. And he's always, you know, I appreciate that the two brothers always give really honest feedback. You know, like they tell me what they like. They generally don't like is obviously without, you know, unsurprisingly, they don't prefer most of what I do and say. They like to hear the real analysis with, you know, context and background.
You're saying for the rest of Nick's birthday podcast, you should just go off and you should mute and me and Mike should talk because he would rather hear that. Than
Yeah, but we all know what happens when we do that, right? I very quickly run out of thread on that spool.
No. I was saying the opposite. I was saying that you should just stop talking. He wants to hear me and Mike talk.
Yes. Sorry, I misunderstood. That is exactly.
That also makes me want to ask you, did you ever get around to listening to, I think the two different me and Mike podcasts without you?
No, I never listened to them.
Fuck you, man.
Well, so that's actually, we could flag this for the post podcast discussion, which is really, folks, that's the real content. But I need access to the old shit. Who has that?
I have MP3s.
Yeah, I know. I have some MP3s. There was I think there's on SoundCloud, and I was paying like $15 a month for like the unlimited, like 15 for the unlimited, you know, storage or whatever for SoundCloud. But then I realized that like that it cost me like $500 over the course of several years. So I can't. So I canceled the subscription, but I still have some of those MP3s, and I think there are still a few up there on the SoundCloud account. I have some really early ones too, like our Jack and Jill one.
Get it all on the same.
That's on like, because we have them. The thing is, like, we need to get some consolidation because I have like the Mike's Movie Podcast YouTube channel. Then we have the Mike's Movie Podcast SoundCloud channel. Then like Evan, like you have your like Mike's Movie Podcast YouTube channel where you get stuff uploaded on there. So we need to get some consolidation. But I would be interested in like listening to the early ones, because I can tell you, like, I prepared like really hardcore for like Jack and Jill and like the early ones where I had like an outline. Like I like wrote an outline, like point by.
I always have that. This is like one of the only ones I didn't do that.
Oh, sorry, Nick. Yeah, I didn't do it for this one either, but that's mainly just because I have an impeccable steel trap memory, which is why I couldn't remember if we did a Phantom Thread podcast. And I just watched it, so I figured like, oh, it'll be fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's why I brought it up, Mike. So yeah, if you guys want to, send me links, I'll compile it, consolidate.
Well, as for this one, I'm combing through the movie in my mind, because there is one scene that I didn't want to talk about too, which actually made me a bit uncomfortable, and that was when Mabel was waiting for the bus, and she wanted to know what time it was, and she was like accosting other women walking by, asking them about what time it was, and like just kind of aggressively, being like, "Oh, I see your watch on your wrist. You're too good for me. Ah, well, screw you." And then like walking away. So I thought that was also just another scene where it's just a lot of yelling and like barking at people.
It's crazy to think about a time when that would be a thing where anyone would need to ask anyone what time it is, where we don't all have a device that tells time on our person. Like, it's just, I remember being younger and either asking people or having people ask me what time it is. And it's just like, it's not really a thing anymore.
Pardon me, good sir, do you have the time?
Exactly. And some Grey Poupon.
Yeah.
Let me check my timepiece. I say we review some adaptations of some old Dickens books, huh? Old Chucky Dickens.
Yeah. Only made for TV. I don't want to watch any theatrical Dickens. I want to watch the most bootleg Lifetime original time bullshit.
We're gonna watch.
Isn't Chris Carol. That's Dickens, right? We'll do the motion capture Zemeckis Christmas Carol.
We're gonna do the BET family version of Christmas Carol and
Well,
Pickwick.
no, there is a Tom Arnold version of A Christmas Carol too that I saw on.
Oh yeah, we can Tom Arnold Christmas Carol. Then we can finally get around to doing the Drew Carey Disney Channel Pinocchio.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I think we're planning the next ones. I think we need to get back to basics on those.
It's some,
I was thinking too, because there is, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Cameo, but I was thinking like Tom Arnold's on Cameo, and I think for like $50 you could get him to record like a happy birthday message. So I think I might do that one of these days.
money well spent.
Yeah. Well, but let's keep on analyzing and discussing.
Well, I wanted to say I don't, just to clarify, I don't think I got to say when I say eating your vegetables, I just mean like classic cinema, conventionally defined, rewatchable movies for most folks. I wasn't saying that all.
Rewatch A Woman Under the Influence or Ordinary People. I don't think even people who love those movies rewatch them very often.
Well, the fact that it's in a Criterion collection that people collect and covet would probably.
I mean, half the fucking Criterion stock in trade is things that people have on a shelf to feel smart and don't ever watch. That's
Well,
like
that may be true. That may be true, but you got to think. I mean, like people say, like, okay, these are the good movies that I have, and whatever. I don't think it's their marketing strategy to say like, hey, we have a $40 version of a movie that you don't want to watch.
That's absolutely that I disagree. I think that's definitely a thing they do. And they know that there are people out there that are like, I need it.
Yeah. I have a Criterion movie that I watch. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, I have tons of them. There's many great Criterion editions.
Oh,
I disagree with the idea that like because it's Criterion means it's like rewatchable. Classic for sure. Rewatchable, not so much.
Well, you're only you don't have a large enough sample size to make that claim. It might not be rewatchable for you, but other people might. Like you said, when you were a kid, you liked
my
watching.
sample size is other movie fans I know. I think I have a pretty big sample size.
No, and it's very much selected by your own weirdness and proclivities, so you don't know.
What? Science is a synthetic hallucination that we all just agree to decide is reality. I don't necessarily agree. Repetition doesn't mean it's real.
It still means there's lots of Criterion DVD owners that you don't know. Anyway.
There are plenty of people that own it. I'm just debating how much they rewatch it. I bet of all people that put movies out, Criterion, if you had like a pie chart, or not a pie chart, a bar graph of labels that put DVDs out to how often people that buy them rewatch them, Criterion is definitely in the lower third of the bar graphs in that.
What is your most watched DVD? And then your most watched, well, we'll just say your most watched DVD. Let's exclude Blu-rays. And let's throw the Blu-rays in. Mike, Adam.
I'm thinking. I want to give you a serious answer. I'm trying to think back and be realistic.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
looking at my shelf here. I mean, for me, most rewatched. Well, so are we talking about like a single disc or a general like family? Because I mean, for me, I mean, I have my early Simpsons seasons, which I watch a lot. I don't know if there's a specific disc in there.
Which give me a season.
Well, so I have on DVD, I have seasons 3 through 9. I would say of those, I probably watched seasons 4 through 6 the most. And so, and I have, so just theoretically, rewatch those. I mean, for me, it's probably got to be like Terminator 2 in terms of ones that I've watched, which should come as no surprise to avid listeners of this podcast.
You know what's funny is mine probably should be Terminator 2, but it's actually Alien, the movie that I pop in the most. And
I was say Alien is a contender for me. Absolutely. Alien and Blade Runner, I've gone through phases where I have put those on all the time.
You know what?
Alien, Blade Runner, all three DVD sets of Mr. Show are definitely up there.
Yeah.
You know what I was just thinking about with Blade Runner? It's how like it actually is a little bit of a mystery as to whether or not Harrison Ford is a replicant or not. I kind of leave that as a mystery.
Depending on which version you watch.
Yeah.
Oh, and my all-time favorite, guys, Inception. I said that.
Have you guys watched Tenet yet?
No, I actually have thought about it many times and even searched it. Haven't pulled the trigger. I want to watch it. I'll watch it.
I would like to see it as Christopher Nolan intended, and 70 millimeter.
I went to see it in the drive-in, as I'm sure I talked about. But I kept thinking they were going to put it back in theaters. I would totally go see it again in theaters. I can't believe they haven't put it back in theaters.
Man, the stuff that's in theaters is really bad. I had a friend visiting last week. We were going to go to the Alamo. Little post. Because the pandemic's over, guys. All right,
That's true.
Everything's perfectly safe now.
Yeah.
We were going to go to the Alamo.
What's not safe though? If you ask Rob Schneider, what's not safe is the vaccine.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should do a Rob Schneider festival.
Yeah, I know. But what were you saying though? Like, did you end up seeing like A Quiet Place too? Is that what you saw?
The selection was so bad. We said no movie. And it was really bad. I mean, it was
the next new release that is coming out that I know I will go see. And so I saw the Bob Odenkirk, John Wick movie.
That's
and
right.
since then, there was nothing I gave a fuck about in theaters until the end of this month. The new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Old, comes out, and I'm definitely gonna go see that.
We have the new Nick Cage thing is out now.
But so, Adam, are you looking at the entire oeuvre of M. Night Shyamalan? Like, are you just a connoisseur of his work, or is it? Do you have different motivation for seeing Old?
Number one, I think in recent years he is the best he's ever been. I, like everyone, loved The Sixth Sense, Signs, that whole initial cycle, and then like everybody, I was kind of done with him and thought he was a one-trick pony hack who sucked, and I didn't see anything from like The Happening, Lady in the Water, Last Airbender. And then when I saw The Visit on an airplane, I was like, man, I thought this was going to be stupid, but it was actually really good. And then I really liked Split, and then I really liked Glass. He just keeps, I think this, and then like the premise of Old, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, is this real goofball premise that like is exactly the kind of shit that no one would do if he wasn't doing it. Is a family goes to the beach and then they all start like rapidly aging. Like the kids come back from playing and they're like adults now and their bathing suits don't fit and they're like, Mommy, what happened? Like, that's a great idea. And I'm sure the ending might be stupid or whatever, but like, I think this is peak. I think we're in the golden year of M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm excited for it.
Well, I remember like from M. Night Shyamalan is a couple things. Is I saw The Happening in theaters when it came out, 2008.
I wish I had. I was a hater already at that point, but I was wrong.
Yeah, and if I remember, this would have been, I think, like this would have been in Racine. This would have been like the Marcus Renaissance Theater, and I think there were like 4 people in there. And I'll say with movies, is that if I found, I don't know, if I was entertained and engaged, that's going to be better use of my time than what I would have been doing otherwise. And I would say I'm happy that I saw The Happening, and that provided a net boost to my general overall being. Watching,
I didn't see it until way later, but I agree with you. I was like, everybody says it sucks, I don't care. And I didn't see it in theaters. And then when I finally saw it, only like when I started to think he was getting good again later, I was like, man, I should have gone to see this. This is great. Yeah. I get why people make fun of it. And I think I think it is admirable how many movies he makes, including this forthcoming one, where the premise, you're like, this is just inviting mockery. This is so absurd. Of course people are going to make fun of it. And he just does it anyway. I really think he follows his heart through the most ridiculous projects, and I commend him for it.
No, I definitely appreciate that one too. And I thought it was like that movie, if it was like a episode of like The Outer Limits or something, people would have been like, "Oh yeah."
Honestly, it's Wahlberg. If it wasn't Wahlberg, people would have taken it more seriously. It's Wahlberg's performance, I think, that made it get totally. It was people being ready to be done with him in general, and Mark Wahlberg's performance that made that movie get taken less seriously than it should have.
Yeah, and then what I do remember with Shyamalan too is like this is like stuff on Facebook of someone had a post. This is going back to 2010. Is because like he had the movie that he produced called Devil when people are in the elevator and like one of the people in there is the devil, and it's like his Facebook post from a long time ago, like the preview. Then it was like from producer M. Night Shyamalan, and then like everybody in the theater booed because Shyamalan was on a bit of a cold streak. And I'll say I saw Devil and I thought it was a perfectly fine movie. Same thing.
I haven't. I should watch it.
Yeah, should do. Nothing like, oh wow, revolutionary, but it was a perfectly fine movie. So I like Split too. And again, same thing. This is going way back to 2004. Saw The Village in theaters, and I was like, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed The Village.
I enjoyed The Village.
But
I did. That is the beginning of me being mad about it. And like now, when I go back, I'm like, I was wrong. He did a subversive thing, and he tricked me, and I got mad at him for tricking me. But he did a good job, and he did what he intended to do. And I just am mad that he tricked me.
Yeah. But there is I think there is a pretty pronounced theme of people dealing with trauma throughout all of his movies.
I mean, that's like any movie that's serious. Like, name a movie that isn't about people dealing with trauma. That's not a comedy.
Yeah, but I think in this one though, it's like the trauma like gives people like powers.
Well, that is. I will say, in the movie Split, that is like one I remember in the theater being like, I don't remember the last time a major studio wide release movie contained an idea as subversive as like maybe the mentally ill people are better than the normal people, which is absolutely what Split is doing. And I don't think it was really like made to the forefront, but I was like, man, that's like that. That's if you follow that thread, that is a idea that people would be very uncomfortable with. And I was hoping he would get more into it in Glass, and he kind of didn't. He did his own thing, which I also still like. Because Glass, my favorite subversive thing in Glass is they have all those things about like the new tower is built, and they keep making you think there's going to be a final confrontation at the big new tower, and then it's like in a puddle in a parking lot. That was the best, we're going to do some Marvel big build. No, it's going to be like a guy in a puddle in a parking lot. That's your big climax. How you like that, America?
I have not seen Glass, so I do not have any comment. So spoiler alert, no. But no, there'll be one coming out later this month. I need to get back into the habit of going back to the movie theaters. It's just been
Have you been back at all?
No, I have not. In fact, I don't even know if I can remember what the last movie that I would have seen was. I'll have to go through my bank statements and look at the last charge.
You gotta start keeping your ticket scrapbook like me. I can show you exactly.
I should. I hope it was something good. I can't remember what it was. It may have been like even the. Actually, you know what? I know that one of the last movies that I did see in theaters would have been not Good Time. Why am I blanking?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Yeah. Would have been one of the last that I'd seen before everything.
Let's see here. My last one was a very common last one, which is the Invisible Man movie, which was great. Before that, we had Gretel and Hansel. Before that, we had Birds of Prey, a legendary.
Somebody should say that in case somebody's listening but not watching, that Adam just brought out a gigantic 4-inch thick and 13 by 11 wedding photo album filled with movie ticket stubs. And
dating all the way back to 2009. I started when I moved to Los Angeles. District 9 was the first movie I ever saw in Los Angeles.
Is that the Tim Burton thing?
No, that's the aliens are on Earth, South African. It was like a race relations via aliens movie.
Yeah, and that was the one where like that's Charlito Copley, right? And then he
correct. Second one ever. Glitter and From Justin to Kelly at the Egyptian Theater. Not many people at that one, but 10 people. Anyway.
You have the was it the Astrologer? Do you have the ticket stub for that one in there?
I probably do. Do you remember what year that was? There's a lot of shit in here.
Oh, I think that would have been like 2015, 2016.
The only thing that's fucked up is sometimes if they don't do a ticket stub, I don't have it. Like the New Beverly doesn't do ticket stubs. Cinefamily, they take your stub when you go in. So none of those theaters do I have anything. I can't remember if the Astrologer had a stub or not. 2000.
Oh, yeah, you gotta get a.
Yeah. I do think with while you're looking that up, I do think that I know there's still plenty of ground to cover here, but I think that it might be time, maybe a little bit early, to get into the cheeseburger ranking for A Woman Under the Influence.
There it is. Got it.
Okay, when was that? 2015, May 24th, 2015. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool, huh, guys?
No, I like it. I wish I had.
Yeah, and Adam, I'm pretty sure that we saw Mad Max Fury Road together too at the Pacific Place.
I saw it several times.
Yeah.
Yes, let's find that one.
Have you seen have you seen the shiny and chrome edition of Mad Max?
No, I mean I would watch it. I just haven't got around to doing that. Here was the best one. I don't know if this is the one we saw together, but when they like redid it in IMAX, I went to that like science museum. You know what I'm talking about? Was that the one we went to?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too. I think, geez, this is with my brain atrophying. I know.
No, here we go. Here's the Pacific Place. This is when me and Mike went to Pacific Place.
Nick Johnson will appreciate this. You can just enjoy this podcast. This is just for him. We're not. You know what? I don't even know if we're gonna put this on the channel.
Oh, we're putting it on the channel.
I can't understand why we got all those hits for Major Pain and nothing in these other ones.
So we really
Well, it's almost like more people Google Major Pain than ordinary people, which is borderline ungoogleable because it's two normal words anyway. That just shows you that Major Pain is a hot property that they're going to remake soon. They're going to be like, people are desperate for more Major Pain content.
You know what I think we should do? I think we should, be like the Cinema Sins channel and have everything wrong with Major Pain. I think that would be fun. So yeah, Adam, you like Cinema Sins, right? You enjoy those everything wrong with.
Never heard.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to find other ones. I mean, I think me and Mike went to a lot of these together. I'm just trying to find classic Seattle era ticket stubs. Blended. Who could forget? Good old Blended.
Oh, I need to see some of the timestamps on these ones too. Yeah, 2014. Yeah, and then of course we had what Step Up All In.
Oh yeah, we went. Oh yeah, you're okay. That ticket is kind of faded because then that was a fucked up shitty theater we drove to. But there's Step Up All In. Barely legible.
Yeah, there's no way that theater is still open.
No, absolutely not. Related, I just wanted to say one thing I did want to bring up, and it's related to the movie The Devil, because recently we had the movie Good Burger on as a have-on here, classic movie. And when we were watching Good Burger, I was like, is this the last Sinbad theatrical movie? And I looked it up because could you, off the top of your head, can you think of a movie featuring Sinbad after Good Burger?
No.
I couldn't. So I looked it up, and it basically is. That's the last major studio-wide release featuring Sinbad, but there was one more, and it's on Box Office Mojo as having made some money, so it must have come out somewhere. I'm sorry, the birds are going crazy.
I was gonna say, is that like, are you listening to the Downward Spiral, or is this some sort of just like rural Vermont farm noise?
Can't see it. But so I was looking up, and the movie is from 2002. It's called. They was flipping out. I'll see if I can see it.
That's a chorus of clucks.
They're not chickens.
There's a
Guinea
rooster
fowl.
in the hen house. Guinea fowl, even better. All right. Our co-host Adam is
Anyway.
Henry David
Anyway.
experience.
So it's from 2002. It's called Crazy as Hell, and it's a vanity project by Eric LaSalle, aka the black guy on ER. Did you guys ever have someone in your life that watched? My mom watched ER, so I'm very familiar with ER. He was the black guy in ER, and it's a movie he I think either wrote and or directed and stars in, and it's a movie where a guy checks himself into an insane asylum saying he is Satan, and Eric LaSalle plays Satan, and that's already kind of funny. But Eric LaSalle, part of his being Satan is he can be transgender, and he's wearing a leather corset and walking up to people in the urinal, and they go to nightclubs, and it basically is a Tim and Eric bedtime stories, and Sinbad is an orderly at the hospital. I kind of thought it would be stupid, but it's actually really crazy and funny. There's extended dance sequences in the asylum, just like in Good Burger. Must have been something Sinbad was into.
Yeah. But isn't so a couple things with Sinbad, wasn't his thing for stand-up clean comedy? Wasn't he not swearing? Or is that totally wrong?
No,
Yeah.
that's correct.
And isn't he still touring these days?
Oh yeah, it's great. We've gone to see him when he comes to Madison. It's incredible. Another thing he's known for is that he doesn't perform for when he goes on a normal tour, he doesn't have a set. He doesn't have a standard pre-planned material. He's mostly just riffing. He goes up there and is talking about stuff he did in whatever city he's in that day. When he was in Madison, he had a lot of college student jokes. Then he does some crowd work. He's just such an effortlessly charming guy that it's always rewarding.
If we had talked instead, if I had asked the question of what's your most watched VHS.
Oh yeah. That's a whole other thing, because I used to have a TV VCR that looped, and I would leave things looping for weeks on end. So anything I did that with is on another level. The movie, the Nazi zombie movie Shockwaves, the movie Project Nightmare.
You gotta have sat down and watched it. I mean,
I've watched the ones I did that with. I saw so many times because they would be on in my room anytime I was in my room. I had them memorized. Still have them memorized.
I would have been, and Nick Johnson will remember this, but House Guest is probably up there, at least in the top 3, maybe number 1. And then so is the movie Airheads, and there were a few. Christmas Story.
That's kind of left field.
Now, Nick and I won, I think a couple different years. We started November 10th and just watched it every single day until Christmas. Don't ask me why. It's a thing that happened. We did it. We had it. We watched it. You'd think we would have done something more like Christmas Vacation if we're going to do a 60-day holiday anticipatory repeat, but Christmas Story. Yeah. So for cheeseburgers, I'm giving it a 1/3.5. 1 in terms of my own personal enjoyment, and 3.5 in terms of just the.
As a statistician and a scientist, don't you feel like that's undermining your whole scale system yourself?
Oh, I just created another variable and ranked it on a separate scale.
Would you say that's a normative thing to do in scientific research?
What does that have to do with it? I'm ranking it's a 3.5 out of 4 in terms of quality. It's a 1 out of 4 in terms of personal enjoyment.
So when you don't split it in most other podcasts, what is that ranking?
I guess I typically just give the personal enjoyment one. So the 3.5, I'm just kind of saying as an addendum, hey, look, I realize it's good, but not my cup of tea. It was just too painful. I think the screaming, I'm just too old. I can't take it anymore.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give this one 4 veggie burgers. Because this one's all about eating our vegetables, and I think we got that one. 4 veggie burgers with extra spinach and steamed broccoli.
And some of that good 70s yellow mayo that's starting to go bad,
Yeah.
I went through a phase where I don't know why. I think it was because they were cheap at Woodman's. I used to eat a lot of Boca burgers. You guys ever have Boca burgers?
I used to eat them a lot too. In college, actually, I ate them because they were
What's
cheap.
up with that? Why? I don't
know.
even know what made me aware of them, but for a long time, that was this thing I would just have a casual, easy meal.
They're easier to fuck with than a nasty, bloody pack of hamburger. And I remember when I was living in my first apartment, it was always like 95 degrees in there because you weren't allowed to have air conditioning and it was all windows that didn't open. And I didn't want to bring any meat shit in there if I didn't have to. So, although I did eat frozen chicken wings. So it's frozen chicken wings, Boca burgers, and of course, Jack's frozen pizzas. Anyway.
Yeah, when we're next time we're in Madison, we should go to that apartment and see if we can just like, knock on the door and just say, hey, look around here. This is where
Yeah, it's just one room, so we'll see whatever they have. Yeah, those are some whatever. I'm trying to remember the most like momentous thing that happened in that apartment. I don't think anything too crazy happened in there.
What are you talking about?
We're talking about the place I lived across from the Highlander on Gilman.
Oh, yeah. That's the first where you lived when, yes.
Yeah, where Turco puked up a bunch of wine in the sink, and it looked like something out of like The Shining. Other than that, I can't really remember anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Mike,
I thought of Turco when watching A Woman Under the Influence, because when she comes back from the hospital and she's not zany like she used to be, I've had that experience with Turco where you're hanging out with him and you're expecting the era of Turco we're familiar with, and then it's not zany at all. And I feel about how I do about Mabel in A Woman Under the Influence when it happens.
well, I feel like we need to do a quick Turco / Penis Boy update, maybe offline here, off the air.
So I think we can keep on talking here, but I think that I feel like we've in terms of discussing A Woman Under the Influence, I think that we have touched on all the key points, and I think that we've sprinkled some good friendship in between through all of that one. So I think that we can go ahead and we can say happy birthday, Nick. This is our gift
Can
from
we
us
sing
to
for him?
and
yeah.
Well, I guess thank you all for listening.
Thanks for being my friend.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, well, hey, guys, we could do it,
Gotta make a Patreon to pay Mike back for the SoundCloud. The Patreon is to like pay off our.
Listen now, I pay $15 a month for this Zoom account that we have here. So
I thought you had it from work.
I have 2 for work and 1 for personal.
Right.
Yeah. I love Zoom and Apple very, very much. That's nobody else is gonna get by. That's funny. Anyway, I have nothing more to say. Again, like, glad I watched it. Glad we talked about it. Won't be putting it on anytime soon again. But there you go, Nick. Yeah. So, Mike, SNL music, saxophone.
Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on.
Actually, Mike, why don't you play the almost live music instead? I was thinking about that today, where it's like.
I watched
I don't know.
SNL recently.
I don't know if I have that pulled up yet, but I actually have something to show you too. I don't think you'll appreciate.
Technical difficulties here.
Okay, hold on. Oh, I don't know if I have the theme to it queued up. So that's the challenge. So I think we're just gonna have to. There you go.
All right, hey, this is great. I love you guys. I love you.